Okay. Hi, I'm Brian Mahan, and I am a somatic experiencing practitioner specializing in working with developmental and shock trauma. I'm a professional in working with trauma. So I work with trauma as a physiological condition more so than a psychological disorder. And so therefore, I have a greater efficacy rate in helping my clients heal their past and the past traumatic events that they went through. Well, I originally got into this work as a client. I was in a catastrophic car wreck in 2003, where my car flipped end over end, rolled a few times across 3 lanes of traffic, slid on the driver's door 150 feet, and crashed into a concrete wall. Although I walked away from it several days later, I started having panic attacks. I didn't know they were panic attacks. I just thought I was cracking up. And after several days on the living room floor in the fetal position howling at the moon, I finally made my way to seek out help. And I was referred to a somatic experiencing practitioner. And in 3 sessions, my panic attack stopped. I haven't had one since 2004 when I started the work. And after my 3rd session, 2 weeks later, I went into the training. My life did a complete 180 because I found the work so profound. And I had tried everything for 25 years to try to heal. And this was like the missing link. I work with all kinds of clients. I work with teenagers to the elderly. I work specifically with trauma. And we have to understand what trauma is so that we can figure out whether or not someone is traumatized. But what I look at is how our nervous system, our lower brain, become dysregulated as a result of extraordinary events. And so those extraordinary events can be the birth process itself, like being born with a cord wrapped around your neck, or breech, or C-section, things like that. And then immediate medical procedures that might happen around the birth. And then I also look at the entire developmental period up till about 10 or 12 years old, how our needs are met effectively or inefficiently affects how we begin to perceive ourselves, the world, and our relationship to it. And so that's called developmental trauma. It forms who we are. It forms our defense mechanisms, our survival strategies, and therefore we can carry those throughout our entire lives unless we work on them effectively. So that's the developmental piece, and a large piece of that is shame, and that's one of my specialties, is helping people move out of toxic shame into healthy shame. And then the other part of trauma is what we call shock trauma, and that's everything from falling off your bike, near-death experiences, car wrecks, medical procedures, loss, whether it's divorce or loss of a loved one by death or abandonment, that kind of thing. And then I also have a strange little specialty in working with ritualistic torture. So my clients come from all walks of life, have all kinds of experiences that have caused this dysregulation in them. But the one thing that they're most clear with is that they have reenactments, they have patterns and vicious cycles in their lives that no amount of talk therapy has been able to resolve for them. And so what I do is I help clients look at their current presenting symptoms, and then we track those back to the original wound and work around that original wound while also having reparative and corrective experiences in the present day. So that way we can have a real profound and long-lasting shift in healing. Well, I'd say about 75% of my clients are on some sort of video conferencing. So I see people on Skype, Zoom, and FaceTime. I have clients all over the world. And then about 30% of my clients are face-to-face. I have a home office in Los Angeles. So on a day-to-day basis, I spend anywhere from 6 to 10 hours sitting with people, holding space for them to be exactly where they are. And together we figure out where their system needs us to go. Well, I help break the mold of how trauma is looked at currently through the lens of psychotherapy. One of the reasons we know that trauma is inherently a physiological condition more so than a psychological disorder, not that there isn't a psychological component, but there is clearly a physiological component if we can become traumatized in that early developmental stage from birth until 10, 11, 12 years old. But in that early stage between birth, when we're pre-verbal, pre-cognitive, pre-conceptual. So if we can become traumatized before we have words and language and the capacity to thought and reason and judgment and perspective, then obviously there's something else at the root of trauma more so than the psychological piece. Unfortunately, trauma is looked at through the lens of, today in modern culture, it's looked at through the lens primarily of a psychological disorder. And so the lens isn't focused quite properly. I think the psychological component of trauma is how we deal with things in aftermath, how we try to put things into perspective and compartmentalize and gain time, distance, and space from the event. And that's a part of it, but what we really need to work on is the original wound and the way in which we are wounded. And that's a lower brain and autonomic nervous system function. What do I love most about my life and work is that I don't look at it as work, I look at it as lifestyle. I have the great fortune of being able to work from home, so I have a home office, and I also Skype and FaceTime and Zoom with clients all over the world. So that gives me an incredible amount of flexibility. I'm able to travel quite a bit. I just got back from 5 weeks in Fiji, New Zealand, and Australia, and I was able to work while I was gone. And so for me, like I said before, the more I work, the better I feel. So I'm invested in my clients as well for that reason, because it's a shared experience and I'm gaining and growing and learning and evolving from the process as well. My greatest hope and aspiration for my clients is for them to become more grounded, centered, boundaried, embodied, empowered, in the moment, safe, and joyful.